Hi YouTube, this is a bit of a different format, directly one-on-one talking to you without even a special microphone. It is a bit more of a spontaneous video at the beginning of this year. Now, what I noticed recently is that there is a lot of bullishness again with crypto. The current sentiment is very, very different to just half a year ago, and of course, the rising altcoin market, the rising Bitcoin prices, contribute to this. But I'm always wondering how justified is the current mood, right? Because there is this idea that we should be greedy when others are fearful, and we should be fearful when others are greedy, and currently people are rather greedy. But then on the other hand, there's also the saying, the trend is your friend, right? And currently the trend is upwards. We should be following the positive price movements. I personally believe that we are more likely going up from here than down from here in this year. That being said, I still think that the current sentiment is too optimistic. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm not that exuberantly optimistic that we're going to hit 100K in the first quarter of this year. You now see this already in traditional media, right? A lot of people discussing that Bitcoin will hit the new all-time highs at least by the end of the year. And I wonder where people get this from, where they get this certainty from. The current holder base, of course, is bullish, right? They made their gains. And the long-term holders aren't necessarily selling yet. But on the other hand, in order for these new all-time highs to happen, we need new entrants. And I do not yet see so many new entrants into the space. I see a lot of people that are waking up again, that have basically been inactive during the bear market, rightfully so, that now see, okay, there's a recovery starting again, and this could mean we are starting a longer, prolonged bull run. I do think also that this is relatively likely. I agree with that, but I don't know how long this bull run will actually last. We could see a retracement faster than most people expect. The market very often does what the fewest people actually expect. When we look at this after the crash in 2018, right? Bitcoin went from 20K all the way down to 3.5K, right? First it went from 20K to like 6.5. Then it was pretty much flat for a long time at 6.5K. Then the Bitcoin miners got into trouble. They had to sell their inventory. They went out of business. And then we saw the final drop from 6.5 to 3.5K. The recovery we saw from those 3.5K up to then 60K and later 68, 69K. That recovery was not a straight line. We first went from 3.5K to roughly 12, and then we got our Corona crash from those 12K down by 60 to 70%, depending on how you measure it, right? Day end prices, it was 60%. Intraday prices, it went down all the way by 70%. So a huge wick down, caused obviously by a liquidity crunch in traditional markets, right? The traditional markets were crashing first, roughly 1 week before crypto crashed. People needed liquidity, so everything went down, including gold, Bitcoin as well. And so it was simply just an external event that was carried over to the crypto markets as well. That might have been a special case, right? A special black swan event. But who tells us that we really have to go straight up from here? I don't expect a huge correction. I don't gamble on it. I don't have a ton of dry powder on the side waiting to be deployed just for that crash. But as said, I am cautiously optimistic. I am potentially prepared for a retracement. Because when we look, for example, at the realized price of Bitcoin, right? You might have heard about the realized price. The realized price is a measure, a moving average basically, that checks what is the average price that Bitcoin has traded at for all market participants, for all the Bitcoin that has ever existed. The recent price is just what the last person has bought or sold Bitcoin for, right? The realized price is what the market in aggregate has bought or sold it for. So if the realized price we know, is the market in aggregate currently in profit or in losses? And that price is currently at roughly 22,000. So the market in aggregate is already at a 100% gain. That's interesting, right? Most people that are now in crypto, including you, should be in the green now. And they are in average 100% in the green relative to, the purchase price. So if you're currently less than 100% in green relative to your purchase price, you're already, comparatively speaking, late to the party. Now, what does this mean? What's the implication of this? I still think that prices are likely going to rise from here, right? Long-term holders aren't selling. I continue watching what I believe are essential metrics. I continue watching, for example, the stablecoin market cap. Is it continuing to grow? Is money flowing into centralized exchanges? Those kind of things I think are important to time the market. But I am not so sure if 2024 is really going to be better, even what most people expect, compared to 2023. 2023 was phenomenal. We had more than 150% gains in Bitcoin, right? The least risky of the cryptocurrencies. So we have to be somewhat realistic here, right? Even if we only go up, say, by 50% in Bitcoin, which would be pretty much in line with the historical regressions, etc. If you only go up by 40 to 50%, that's already massive compared to other risk-adjusted returns in traditional markets. It's massive also compared to the interest rates. It's massive compared to everything. So there is no real need to be too focused on the short term, especially for Bitcoin. For the altcoins, potentially, but not for Bitcoin, right? We can simply just dollar cost average in, and if we're suddenly, surprisingly, dropping hard, then we simply just can buy a bit more, right? We can dollar cost average in a bit harder. And we can maybe add a little bit of leverage. Not much, but maybe by 1.2, 1.3x if it drops. If it doesn't drop, we simply just continue riding the wave. So there is a bit of flexibility in taking advantage of those waves. But don't be too shocked if we do see the retracement on that way up. We have seen those retracements, massive retracements, in the past. And it's not necessarily a reason to be concerned. You have to mentally prepare yourself what you would do in any kind of scenario. And you can't think about this deterministically. You can't think about this as in, I think Bitcoin will be at price XYZ by end of the year. You have to rather think about it, the likelihood of Bitcoin being at that price is that, the likelihood of Bitcoin being at this lower price is that, and my expected value should be positive, right? That's why I take the bet of holding Bitcoin in the first place. So think about this in terms of probabilities, because one might never know, right? One might never know if Elon Musk suddenly starts selling Bitcoin, or if Michael Saylor suddenly stops allocating to Bitcoin and starts buying Ethereum, or whatever it is, right? It's unlikely. Both of those scenarios are unlikely, but it's not a zero likelihood scenario. There are alternative universes where black swan events can happen. Something from external might happen as well, right? Maybe a major bank in the US suddenly collapses, needs a bailout, we get another global financial crisis, commercial real estate is overpriced, whatever the black swan might be, that could potentially also spill over to crypto. Be prepared that something could happen. Don't just focus too much on the short term, because in the end, crypto, especially Bitcoin, is a system that moves money from the impatient to the patient. So you have to be patient in Bitcoin and don't overanalyze the short term if you're simply just allocating. If you're trading altcoins, that's another story. If you're tracking wallets and try to generate alpha, and you've got the time, that's another story. But if you're simply just allocating to crypto, to Bitcoin, don't be too hyper-focused on what's happening in 2024. We might not see as rosy of a price development compared to last year, even though we've got the halving. Who knows if history will really repeat itself 100%. So be cautiously optimistic, be okay if things don't play out perfectly, and have a plan in case they don't. If you found this useful, feel free to subscribe. I publish videos regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. See you, of course, also in the Telegram chat. Links are down below. Cheers.